Hello, everyone. I'm WFXR Sports Director Jermaine Farrell. Welcome to the WFXR Sports Sit-Down on WFXRTV.com. Each Tuesday and Friday, I will have a special sit-down, one-on-one interview with a person in the world of sports. It is our commitment to bring you a special look at these people and share their stories with you on WFXRTV.com. Again, thank you so much for logging on to WFXRTV.com for the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit-Down. Enjoy. All right, folks, it's another edition of the WFXR Sports Sit-Down, and we have one of the greats out there. I've known this young lady for a minute or two. That's a few years, but that's good stuff. She's one of the rising stars out there in the business, been doing this for nearly 10 years, if I add it up right. It's Roanoke. She's connected to Roanoke, went to Hidden Valley High School, played softball and volleyball there, and did a little work over at WSLS, and we'll talk about that and other things. But doing it right now on WFXRTV.com, the awesome Alyssa Rae. What's up, Rae?
Thank you. Nothing. Thank you so much for having me on. It's good to see you.
Good seeing you. You working hard. Like you got hockey going on.
Are back. Yes. It's normally ACC football and basketball. We're going back and forth trying to share highlights and catch up with each other in between games. But yeah, nice to talk about hockey finally.
I tell you, it's some good stuff. Well, anyway, let's talk a little bit. First of all, spent a lot of your time in Roanoke, but you actually were born in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
Now talk a little about that, but also talk about where did your love for sports and sports broadcasting come from?
It actually kind of ties together. So I was born in Columbus as a baby. I mean, I was not there long. I moved around a bunch as a kid, but most of my family is in Columbus. So my grandparents, aunts, uncle, cousins, and now my brother, his wife, and my nephew, they're all in Columbus. So grew up a big Ohio State fan, cheered for the Bucks my whole life. And when I was a kid, everyone was watching the Ohio State football games and basketball games. And at first, when you're little and you don't get it, you just don't care. Well, I'd get bored because everyone else is watching the game and I wanted to be involved. I have middle child syndrome. I want to be included all the time. And I remember thinking, well, this is boring. I got to figure out how this works. And once I started watching the game and they're explaining to me how it works, I'm just a kid. But once you get it, you're like, this is so much fun. And this is the time where you see Erin Andrews and all the female sideline reporters just getting big, and there's more and more of them. And I thought, that'd be a really cool job. And that's from then on, I decided to pursue it and see, how do I get there? How do I get to do this for a living?
That's some fun stuff right there. Now, obviously, talk about your high school time. Hidden Valley High School, played softball and volleyball. Of course, Coach Pond, Carla Pond, one of the greats out there. What was it like playing softball and volleyball, especially for Coach Pond? That had to be fun.
So she'll be the first to tell you, I quit after I made varsity. I was a baby. And there's a girl that was about 6'1" that showed up to practice after tryouts. And I knew at that point, I'm 5'8". My ups at the time were okay, but not to out jump a girl at 6'1". So I ended up quitting the volleyball team. I did play softball all 4 years. I played volleyball through JV and then, varsity camp and tryouts in 2 weeks, I think. You can ask Coach about that. But we've stayed close. She knows I'm still a big fan of hers. And I loved Hidden Valley. I think my favorite part, though, was we started Titan Force. I don't know if they still do it, but it was a big spirit club thing, and we got everyone into it and gave them T-shirts. But we had, I think, a quarter of the school was part of this club. And that was my favorite part, was going to the football games. And you know how it is when you're a senior, you get front row, and for basketball games, you're all hyped up. And remember, I was in school when Hidden Valley basketball women, and I know they're still good, but I mean, they were huge then. We had the three Abbies, Abby Boggs, Abby Reddick, Abby Oliver. And it was fun. We cheered for them. And I remember I was really into sports, not only playing them, I don't think I was that great, I can tell you that much. But I think I had more fun going to the games and supporting all the sports more than I had playing them. But I think I played just for fun, have something to do.
Good deal. And then after that, you went to Virginia Tech, 4 years as a Hokie. Talk about your experience at Virginia Tech, because I'm sure, yep, there's the cup right there. Go Hokies.
My homer?
Just
we know I'm a homer.
You're on Tobacco Road now. You got to be careful with that cup.
Hey, the Triangle teams here know that I still cheer for them. I mean, it's whatever team you cover, you kind of become, you try to be unbiased, but you do root for them in a way. But Virginia Tech was a blast. I like I said, grew up being a Buckeye, and I remember at Virginia or at Hidden Valley, everyone kept talking about going to Virginia Tech, and everyone wanted to be a Hokie, and I didn't really think about it until senior year. And I'm like, if I can get in, I'm going to Tech. It's 45 minutes away, you know, big football school, big basketball school, so close to home because my family lived in Roanoke. So it worked out perfectly. I think I got in barely, but once I got the acceptance letter, I was there, and it was a great 4 years. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and still a big Hokie supporter, a big Hokie fan.
During your time, you did an internship at Channel 10, and then after your internship, you actually did some work at WFXR. You did the high school game of the week that was on WFXR. Talk about your internship and during that time frame, that experience during the high school football games for WFXR.
So I, as an intern, you know, I was kind of getting into it, and I really liked it. And this is when Fox and WSLS were still, they shared the same talent, and they were, you know, kind of the same company-ish before you guys broke off. So I was interning with Channel 10. Well, they had an opportunity, it was 1 day a week. And, you know, I got paid to be the game of the week reporter, and it was kind of a part-time thing. And John Apacella, the sports director, suggested me to do it. And I was thrilled because it was my first on air. You know, I remember I asked a question as an intern. It was after a game, and I asked a question to one of the coaches. And I'm not in the shot. You can just, you know, you can kind of see my hand in the mic. But we were editing later, and the photographer goes, "That was a really good question, Alyssa. I'm going to leave that in." And I'll never forget, I was watching it back that night, and my parents were at home watching it. And you could hear my question, whatever it was. And I remember my parents saying later, they go, "We heard you ask that question, and we knew that was your game, and we knew that was your voice." And ever since then, I was like, I got to get on TV. Like, this is fun. So that was my first on-air job, and I was terrible. I was such a baby. Those videos make me cringe, and I'm sure a lot of people can tell you, and I hope this video is gone. My first live shot, I know I've told you the story, Jermaine. My first live shot was such a travesty. It had 20-some thousand hits on the website, and not because I did a good job, because I was so nervous. I think I actually blacked out at one point, and I was saying like names of Virginia Tech players. I mean, honestly, it was a disaster. After that point, I didn't know if I was gonna even be in TV, but you know, I remember John kept saying, "You're gonna do it again. We're gonna make you go live again, and you'll be fine, and you're gonna keep going live until it's second nature." So 7 years later, here I am, you know, going live is second nature. But it was that internship and that job with Fox that really got the ball rolling. And because of that job, I got to make my first resume tape. And without that, I wouldn't have had anything. My classes at Tech were great, but I didn't have a resume tape. And you know, that's how you get jobs in this business. And Fox and WSLS were the ones that helped me put one together. And I got my first big girl job in West Virginia because of that.
You know, another person, I spoke with Karen Loftus, who was on the show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
She mentioned that you and her, I mean, she helped you out a lot with your resume reel. Talk about what she did to help you with your reel. In essence, it actually did help you get the job at WVNS as a sports director for 2 years.
It did. And she actually helped me get the job in Roanoke. When I was leaving Beckley, she looked at my reel again, not knowing that I was going to end up being her competition in Roanoke. But it doesn't matter. She's been a mentor to me since I first met her, and I was working, it's Curly and Wellness Roanoke now, but at the Roanoke Athletic Club at the time. And she came in for a gym membership. And I remember saying, and I was a sales rep, and I said, "Well, where do you work? You might get a discount." She said, "WDBJ7. And I go, "Oh, you do, but," and we started talking, and the ball's rolling. And I told her, "Well, I do game of the week for Fox." You know, I was so proud of myself. And she started talking to me. And ever since then, we had just stayed in touch, and she helped me get my job in West Virginia. And when I was putting my reel together to come to Roanoke, she looked at it, and I still go to her, and we message a bunch. And at one point we were both looking for jobs. She was in New Orleans, and her contract was coming up, and I was in Roanoke, and my contract was coming up, and we both wanted to go to bigger markets. And we had so many conversations about how this works. And she's just been such a great mentor and a big supporter. And I really, to this day, I thank her all the time for what she's done, but she's also one of my friends. So it's great to, when I get to see her and to have somebody that's so similar in such an odd profession. It's good. It's really good that I've had her since that day I met her at the rack.
That's awesome stuff right there. Talk about your fondest memory at VNS when you were there.
There are some good times in Beckley. I think it's a lot different than any other job that I've had, because you don't have, everyone's a WVU fan, but Morgantown's not close to where we were living in Beckley. It's 3.5 hours away. So we covered WVU, but really only when the coaches were in town having a caravan. But those were some of my favorite times, because I met Bob Huggins. And remember, I'm 20-nothing at this point, and I'm still nervous to talk to coaches. And I remember Bob Huggins he is a WVU basketball coach, very intimidating person. And the first time I met him, I remember it didn't really go well. And I was there, it was a group of people, and he kind of intimidated me. So the second time I interviewed him, I was so nervous. And I left, and I interviewed him. It went really well, but I was leaving early. So I'm sneaking out of this auditorium, because I had a 10 o'clock news, because I was Fox at the time too. I'm trying to leave early, and he's leaving one of the back rooms, and it's just us in the hallway. And I look at him and I was like, "Hey, thanks, coach. Like, sorry, I'm leaving. I have a 10 o'clock show." And he just stares at me and he goes, "You're full of it." And at first she didn't laugh. And I was like, "No," and he's like, "I'm just kidding." He goes, "Hey, thanks for coming. You have a great night." I have a heart attack. I was like, Hugs just called me out. And ever since then, he's been a fun interview. And a lot of those WVU coaches were fun. But I think some of my favorite memories in Beckley was our Sports Zone Friday night show. It was, it's hard to do sports with a one-person department, but they gave me one of our main anchors, and it was me and him doing the football show. And they gave us a bunch of photographers. I went and shot games. My other co-host went and shot games. And we had a lot of fun with it, and there were no rules. I mean, we went on there. I was dressed up as Duck Dynasty. He was dressed up as Ron Burgundy. We had a horse head that he got from one of the student sections. I mean, there were no rules for the show, and people loved it. In a town like Beckley, I think people really appreciated the fact that we cared about these teams as much as they did, and we were into it, and we put all of our time and energy into it. And that was my favorite thing we did there. And to this day, I love that football show.
That's so good. I tell you, I could just imagine when you do a football show, you got to have fun. When I do my show, Friday Night Blitz, I have a ball. So when you do those football shows, because you're making the high school kids like they're the stars. So you kind of have to make it fun. And that was kudos to you for doing that. So you parlayed that to a trip back to Roanoke. And you started in 2015. But the interesting thing during that time frame, if you look at it, before you got there, and then Kevin joined us, and then Karen was there. There was Denise Membrano, who was the first female full-time sports person in the market. She was at WDBJ, and she's doing stuff now with New Moon Media. I got to ask you this: at that time, I mean, it's probably rare to have 3 sports women in a market at one time. And you talk about how close you are with Karen and then Kevin, but it seemed like you 3 had such a sisterhood still to this day. What was it like to have that, where you had 3 in the market like that, you, Kevin, as well as Karen?
There's a lot of press conferences where I look around and I'm the only female. And I feel like as the years have gone by, I'm aging myself here, but I feel like now there's more and more women. But when I just started out, I felt there were more press conferences than not. I was the only female. And to come to Roanoke and have both of them, and they're just such good people. And yeah, your competition technically, but I never felt that way in Roanoke, because in sports, you know how it is. Most of the time, we're not really breaking any news here, but we would help each other. And there were times that, I'd have a camera issue or someone else would have a camera issue, or we're holding someone's tripod up and they're trying to do a live shot. And there's been so many times we've had to help each other. And it's something that you learn as you go in this business, and to have 2 women that were supportive and helpful when I needed them was always nice. And I'm so excited to see them and their success. And I remember when I found out that Karen went to Tampa, I was just so thrilled for her. And I texted her and I was like, this is what we've been waiting for. Like, this is supposed to happen. And Kevany in Las Vegas, she was fantastic. She's an athlete. I remember her, one of my favorite memories of Kevany was we were shooting a Patrick Henry football game. And, it's kind of hard to stay in front of it's just you shooting like a high school game. You try to stay in front of the ball, and it's kind of hard to get back and forth and not miss a play. Kevany, she was like actually running down the sideline to get the play. And I loved it. And she's an athlete, so no one stood in her way. She got there. But it was nice to have those two around if something happened or if I needed them or had a question, to know that I had that kind of support system.
That's awesome stuff. Like I said, I'm a big fan of all three of y'all. I love y'all like my daughters. I love the success that you three have had. And it was great to see it firsthand, to see all three of you progress where you are today. So kudos. I feel like all three of you really hit your stride in this market because all three of you got an opportunity to cover big events. But speaking of big, Frank Beamer, I mean, you went to school when he was there as a coach, and you got a chance to cover his last season. Talk about Frank Beamer. I mean, what did he mean to you? And talk about the first time you actually met Frank Beamer. Do you have a moment? Do you remember the first time you actually got to meet him face to face when you were working?
I know that when I was an intern, we were around him a lot. And there are a few interactions, and you can't help but smile when you talk about Frank Beamer, because there are few coaches nowadays that are like him and what he meant to Virginia Tech and what he meant to fans, but more importantly, how he treated people. And my fondest memory of Coach Beamer, and I met him a couple times in passing, and I'd ask, and this is when I was in West Virginia, so I would try to take a picture with him because we weren't covering him, so it wasn't not cool, So finally, it was after we had a couple interactions, and we were at the New Orleans Saints training camp at the Greenbrier when they were there. And I remember Shane Graham, the Virginia Tech kicker, he was on the team at the time, and I'm trying to find any angle to get the Saints and West Virginia to kind of make sense and, localize it somehow. Well, Virginia Tech wasn't too far from Beckley. There are not many, but there are some Virginia Tech fans in that area. So I decided to make my story about Shane Graham. And I had to go to the PR guy, and I said, hey, is it okay? We heard Frank Beamer's here. Can I get an interview with him? And he goes, yeah, let me see if I can get him. Well, he walked away, and all the New Orleans reporters, they were joking with me, and they go, oh, you know Frank Beamer, you know him? And I was like, no, I don't. I said, I'm just trying to get him for an interview. Well, coach walks out, looks at me and goes, I know you, and gives me a big hug. And I've never felt cooler in my life. Never in my life have I felt cooler. And I'll never forget the reporters that were just teasing me about it. They took a picture of Coach and I laughing because we were talking, and and he'll do that to anybody. He makes everyone feel special, and he's one of those coaches that I'll never forget. And really, to cover him is my first full-time beat. We cover Virginia Tech heavy in Roanoke, and to have him as the coach that was my go-to was fantastic. And I know I love Coach Fuente as well. He's doing a great job. Big fan of everyone at Virginia Tech, obviously, but Coach Beamer has a special place in my heart just for who he is and what he represents.
Now, during your time in Roanoke, you suffered a couple of tragedies. One, obviously, the shooting at Channel 7 with Adam Ward and Allison Parker, and you went to class. I mean, you were a classmate of Adam Ward. Talk about what Adam Ward was like in your interaction with him.
Adam was fantastic. He had such a personality in class, and these are smaller classes when you're a freshman, you have 500 people classes, but this is when we're seniors, and it's very niche at this point. So we got to know each other really well in class. He was always fun and had such a great personality. Well, he ended up working at Channel 7. And so when I came back to Roanoke, I remember he gave me the biggest hug and told me how excited he was that I got to come home. And the fact he knew that was so exciting. And he always had a light about him, and you never would be in a bad mood next to him. And the last memory I had with him, we were shooting the state softball game. We were at Radford, and we were both in the outfield with our tripods and our cameras, and we're just cutting up. So I'll never forget that day. It was awful. My phone, I was, where we work late, so I was still sleeping by the time everything happened, and my phone was just ringing off the hook and ringing off the hook. And I finally, I checked my messages, and it said, "Oh, thank God you're okay." Well, my friends that didn't live in Roanoke just heard that stuff happened to a reporter. I run downstairs. My mom had the news on, and she was in tears, and she goes, "You knew him, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "When they said he went to Virginia Tech, I knew that you would have known him because I knew you were, you're in broadcasting classes." So that was tough. That was really hard one to get through. I know my live shots after that day, I was off. That was my weekend during those couple of days. Thank goodness I didn't have to go in and deal with my feelings. But that Friday, it was a Friday football, and we went live. And I've never been so nervous for a live shot in my entire life. And I just kept thinking about him and Allison over and over, and just praying for their families. And I love Roanoke and every station, how they handled that. And they helped each other during that time, and they really lifted each other up. So for that, I'm thankful. But yeah, it's still upsetting. And when I hear about it, and when the date comes, you just kind of get a sinking feeling. But everyone says to live Adam-like, and that's what everyone says. And I try to remember to do that. And he had such a light and such an excitement and enthusiasm that I try to bring that to certain people and try to live through him somewhat.
And the interesting about when it all happened, my first day at WFXR, I was flying in the day of the shooting because, again, my phone was blowing up too, and everybody's, "Am I okay? Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. What's going on?" And it was that morning, and then I flip it over to CNN, I see all that happen. And I tell you what, whoever is in the business, but more likely, whoever was here working at one of the stations during all this happened, it will always touch you and always be there. And that's why I personally have a soft spot for everybody at Channel 7, because I couldn't imagine going through that. I mean, I talked to Karen about it, and she just, she talked about just, it's hard on some days. And so I just have this personal connection. And then obviously talking with Kevin about the Vegas, and she covered that out there shooting. It's really a tough situation. Your mother, God rest her soul. I mean, when I heard that happened, my heart went out to you. And you always talk about how important and how special she is to you. Just talk about your mom and what she meant to you, because she is looking down on you, smiling at her beautiful daughter.
And you're going to make me cry, Jermaine. 3 years later, still have a hard time talking about it without crying. I mean, she was my best friend. It's still tough. I just try to live and be a good person and make her proud. I know she is watching over. I'm sorry, I knew I would cry.
Okay.
If you asked about my mom. But yeah, I'm blessed. I had 28 years with her, I'd rather 28 years with her than a lifetime with somebody else's mom. So for that, I'm thankful, and she'll always hold a special place in my heart. And I have a lot of faith, and I keep my faith, and I think that keeps me going. And thank God I have a dad and two brothers that are the best people that I've been able to lean on, and I'm super close with them. So it's an open conversation all the time about our feelings, and we miss her a lot. And there's certain days that I handle better than others. Obviously, I'm not handling it too well right now, but I'm blessed that she was my mom, and I'm blessed that the rest of my family, we've always been super close. So that really pulled me through a dark time, knowing that I had 3 other people in my corner, and of course my extended family too have really stepped up and looked after us and made sure that we're getting through. And it's been a rough time, but I think now I can think of her memories and be happy instead of sad, and that's a step in the right direction. She always said, take it one day at a time. And so I try to think of it like that and just get through today. And, luckily I'm not on TV right now, so I can cry on the website, right, Jermaine?
There you go. That's fine. That's fine. Well, I know we're not in person, but I'm going to give you a virtual hug. So this is for you.
Thank you. I needed that. Thank you so much. But yeah,
I think. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think day to day, it's tough, but you know, life's life. So I'm just blessed that I had her influence as long as I did.
And my wife, Yolanda, I mean, y'all share that connection because her mother passed away. And I think, you know, obviously there's a picture you two took together, which I cherish, and how she loves you and just took that bond with you. And she definitely thinks of you all the time. So, and that's.
Well, I love her. She's so sweet, and she's always been so warm to me and just so loving. So send her my love.
I will. And I'm a lucky man to have Yolanda. I can tell you that right now. Now, I'm going to bring a smile to your face. Now, someone, here's the thing. I mean, in this market, you know, Karen talked about how Travis mentored her.
Yeah.
Ebony talked about how I mentored her, which I still owe her money for that. But John Apacella, which I've seen video of him when he actually covered that national championship out in Texas Tech, and Texas Tech won it. And I saw a video of him. It's unique. I'll probably show it. He probably seen it. But talk about John Apacella, what he meant to you, because obviously he played a big role in your career, not only early on, but particularly at WSLS in your time as the weekend sports anchor.
Well, I'll lead off with this. When I left WSLS, which I obviously have so much love for Channel 10, I just wanted to see where else I could go. And it actually ended up, John essentially, he knew I didn't want to leave. I'm comfortable there. I loved it there. They were my family. I had a lot of best friends that worked there, and working with him, he's my greatest mentor, and I credit my entire career to him. But at one point he looked at me and he goes, you need to go see where you can go. He's like, I believe in you. I think you can go to a big market. I think you can spread your wings. It's time to look. You know, he goes, if that's what you want, he goes, you know, I'd keep you here forever. And that meant a lot to me. And so in my email to everyone when I left, I said, if I ever win the lottery, John Apacella is having an island somewhere, or at least coming in with a brand new car, because I owe him my entire career. Just an awkward college kid that didn't have a lot of confidence in TV and much less sports. I remember telling him, like, hey, I know basketball and football, but I can't talk about wrestling or all this stuff that at a local level you got to talk about. He goes, you'll learn, you'll be fine. And he roped me into sports, and I never looked back. But yeah, I talk to him. I still talk to him a lot. He'll call me and check up on me. And if I have an issue, I call him and ask him for advice. He's been so fantastic to me. And I know he's been a mentor to a lot of people. But yeah, if I ever win the lottery, that guy, he's got a new car or something. He knows it too. He knows how much I adore him. But speaking of all of you, and Travis Wells has been fantastic to me. You've been great. I was so blessed to be in that market. And I mean, I knew anywhere I could turn. And Travis, a funny story with him, I was doing a stand-up by myself one day outside of Virginia Tech, and he was just walking by. He was heading out. He's like, hey, you need help with that? And I said, no, I got it. Within 20 seconds, a big wind took my tripod out, and my camera went down. And
I remember that story,
next time I saw him, I told him the story, and I said, maybe I should have taken you up on the help, you know? And there have been plenty of times I looked at you and I'm like, hey, will you look at my camera? Like, why is it doing this? You know, you guys have been so helpful. And we talked before we were even in Roanoke. I remember you sent a message just reaching out to me to talk about Roanoke and our TV ties and whatnot. And that meant a lot to me. And so it all kind of came full circle when we both ended up in Roanoke, where we both really wanted to be. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about the sports guys in Roanoke. I'm a big fan. I'm the biggest fan.
Real quick, I know it's 8 o'clock. Can you give me 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so in the middle of the interview, like, hey, I saw 8 o'clock.
That's all right. There's a Canes game on. We'll catch it later. We'll rewind.
There you go. It's not like the highlights. You can't get the highlights from CNN or something.
Yeah.
Or Newspath or wherever else. Now, 2019, I mentioned your move to big time. You moved to WNCN. That's our sister station. In fact, if you want to get technical, you technically work for 3 Nexstar stations, because WVNS at the time was not Nexstar, but it became Nexstar. WSLS was semi-Nexstar, but then that changed. But you definitely are in the Nexstar fold, as you're at NCN as a sports anchor and reporter. And I got to ask you, I mean, talk about this. I mean, when you were in Roanoke, you got an opportunity to cover obviously Virginia Tech and Virginia, and then obviously the Washington football team. Caught myself, but you moved down to Raleigh. You got 3 ACC teams: Duke, North Carolina State. You covered the Carolina Panthers with the Black and Blue Huddle show, which we aired up here, and everybody loves seeing you on that. And then also the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, you really jumped it. So talk about just handling all those things, because last year you had to produce that Black and Blue Huddle show. We will talk about that. And I appreciate you sending me by way the Joey Slide piece. You aired it at Host All Access. And having you part of the show was so cool to say, and it was so neat that the 3 young ladies that are now, were here with me. I got the intro Karen Loftus package, which interviewed Joe Gibbs, and I got the intro Kevin Martin package, and intro one of yours. So it was pretty cool. But just talk about that, because that's a lot of stuff with you and obviously, Gibbs down there and then Todd. Y'all are busy, Todd and Chris.
Yeah, no, I was so excited when I was hired in this market, because I really wanted, one of the things that I wanted in my jump from Roanoke, I wanted to cover professional teams. Well, I inherited the Panthers show, and it's called the Black and Blue Huddle. And as you know, it ran not only in the Raleigh market, but it also aired in 6 or 7 other markets all throughout Nexstar. So this is a big deal that they're just handing over to me. And I remember the guy that hosted it before me, he's in Denver now, and he's kind of giving me a pep talk and trying to show me the ropes. And luckily I had him for the first couple weeks. But it was so fun to be able to go to a training camp. We were down in Spartanburg covering the Panthers. We were at their practices. We'd go Wednesdays, they let us in the locker rooms, and Sundays we'd go down for the game and then do post game. And I covered Redskins training camp a few times, which was awesome. So I got my feet wet with the NFL then, but I really didn't get to experience being an NFL reporter until I did the Black and Blue Huddle. And we were down there every Sunday, and we'd try to go down there during the week. And if they had special events, we were down there. And it really opened up my eyes to pro football, and I enjoyed it so much. I've always been a big football fan, but the Black and Blue Huddle was so much fun. And now Nexstar now has a station in Charlotte. So they're giving the show to Charlotte. So I lost my show, but we are going to take over we're doing an ACC football show. I believe you'll be in it as well. It will be digital.
Is this breaking news?
I don't know if this is breaking. Maybe it's not announced yet. But I believe there's an ACC football show in the works between our stations. And I've been having a lot of fun with the 3 Triangle teams. And we have other schools here too that are super important, but I know that the 3 big ones people really care about, and I've been having a blast. So we were on a Zoom call with Dave Doran of NC State earlier today. We talked to Mac Brown last week, and he's been great back in North Carolina. David Cutcliffe is fantastic. And actually, Mac Brown kind of reminds me of Frank Beamer in the sense that he's kind of got the old school coach mentality. So they've been so great to work with. And then during basketball season, that was a whole nother beast. So I don't think when I took this job, I knew there was a lot, but I don't think I grasped to what extent that they cover here. And it's been so much fun, and we've been so busy. And I remember there were some days, in the summer, you're like, oh, what am I going to put in my show? And you have those dog days every once in a while. Here, I'm sitting like, someone's got to get the boot. Like, what do I cut out of my 6? I have too much to put in here. Not to mention, we have a professional women's soccer team that's defending champs. We have a men's soccer team. So there's just and then of course now we're all Carolina Hurricanes. So to answer your question, it's been a little busy, but I think I was getting real excited during the ACC tournament, and we anticipated North Carolina is my beat. So I've been assigned North Carolina, but we all kind of share them. So when North Carolina lost in the ACC tournament, I moved to NC State, and we were going to cover and Duke as well, but I knew that I would follow NC State to the tournament. So I'm sitting here like, Duke's going to the tournament anyways. We got to get State to the tournament. They're a bubble team. And one of the biggest games was coming up, and it was the Duke NC State in the ACC tournament. And then the whole tournament got blown out. And I remember thinking, I'm missing out on one of the coolest games that could have happened. But it's been a little slow since then, but now we're getting ramped up. So football practices are back, so we finally have stuff to talk about. And now it's a matter of who's practicing today, who are we going to talk to, what's going on, and then not to mention we got the NHL postseason to manage. So we've been busy.
So what's interesting, because Duke and UNC are in the same division with Virginia Tech. NC State, they play Virginia Tech every now and then. But I just got to ask you, I mean, is it kind of weird to, I mean, you're a Virginia Tech grad, you covered Virginia Tech all these years, and now you're covering, in the ACC, you're covering Duke, UNC, and NC State, and when they play Virginia Tech, it's got to be like, you don't want to walk in the wrong locker room or something like that.
Well, the 6 overtimes with UNC and Virginia Tech about gave me a heart attack. That was in Blacksburg, so we didn't have anyone at the game. But I was anchoring that day, so I had
We sent you highlights. We sent you highlights.
Yes, you did. You did. Thank you. But I remember I'm trying to catch up with the highlights because I knew you guys would be covering post game and whatnot. So I keep going back, and I'm like, all right, we're about done with this. 4 overtimes, and I have to go back 5, and I about had a heart attack. I'll tell you what. But it's hard. It is kind of hard. Now, you know, because I do have loyalty to Virginia Tech. Obviously, I send them a check every month. But now I know that the farther our triangle teams go, we cover them. So yeah, I wanted them to win during the season. I wanted them to win in the ACC tournament. I wanted them to win during regular season football. You know, you just cheer for them because the farther they go, and you know that your viewers want them to win. And I want the viewers to be happy, and I want them to be excited and watch us knowing that we're excited for them. So it's, you know, you kind of want to say like you're a homer for the home teams, but you're right. When they all are playing each other, it's kind of, and I try to stay out of it and not have a dog in the fight and just cover it, especially when you have a couple of local teams going head to head. Just be unbiased, especially. But I'll tell you one thing, Jermaine. I've been reporting live from my apartment, and I've gotten called out a couple times. There's a little Virginia Tech bowl in the back of my kitchen.
Right.
And it's just in the back corner, and I'm not moving it. You know, it was there. It wasn't staged. But
right.
I've had people be like, we see your Virginia Tech cup. And I was like, I'm not moving it. You know, no one's playing Virginia Tech right now. If it was a game night and they played any of the triangle teams, I would move my cup, okay? But they're not playing right now, so I'm leaving it.
I remember that 6 overtime game, and then in basketball they played, I think, a double or triple. They did a double or triple in basketball. But going back to the football game, I was up covering the game up in Charlottesville. I was covering UVA was playing someone, I can't remember. But then we're all sitting there watching the game on Jim Davies' phone. He has his phone because we couldn't get the game somewhere in the press room, and we're all watching it. And it was just such a funny time. So.
Oh my gosh, they were laughing at me because I was running back and forth because I had to go, since we were live recording it, I had to go to the edit bay and edit, and then I had to run back to my desk. And thank God I wasn't wearing heels that day. You know, I was in between shows. I had my sneakers on, but I was running back and forth, and they were laughing at me. But I was like, I'm about to go on air, and I need this. I need the end of the game. I mean, we're in 6 overtimes. I'm not going to go on air and not show the end of the game. So I made it. I think I might have been sweating by the time I got on air that night. But we had the last overtime and everything in the final. But at that point, I almost didn't. You know, I was a little biased. But at the same time, if UNC would have won, I would have been happy as well because they're such a great team and they're such on the up and up. So they've been fun to watch too. But that one stressed me a little.
Good deal. All right, we got Farrell's favorite 5 or 5. I've changed the name of this so many times. 5 questions from Farrell, whatever the title is. I'll get it right eventually. Okay, these are easy, fun questions. Hopefully you won't have to burn too many brain cells, but we'll get you going. Okay, your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink.
I know, it surprises people.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of pink. I just grew up, I was the girliest of girls growing up. I asked my dad this. I asked him the other day because on Saturday we were watching the Canes game together, and I'm just telling him everything about all season. I said, "Hey, if you'd asked me when I was like 5, if somebody would have told you I'd be talking postseason hockey with you, would you have believed him? And he was like, no, because I was just the girliest girl. But yeah, pink's been my favorite color. Haven't changed.
Awesome stuff. Okay, this is funny. Your favorite salad dressing?
I'm into the avocado ranch lately.
Ah,
I know, a little out there, but I also like Caesar. So if we're going simple, Caesar. But if we're not, I'm going avocado ranch.
there you go. I'm more of a ranch blue cheese guy myself. I love blue cheese.
Just simple.
Just dip your wings in them. There you go. Speaking of food,
Yes.
okay, so you're having a dinner party. You're hosting this dinner party. You got the avocado ranch stuff going there. 5 sports figures that be dead, alive, broadcasters, athletes, coaches that you would invite to this dinner, and why would you invite 5?
Frank Beamer. Love him. Michael Jordan. Never met Michael Jordan. Really want to meet Michael Jordan. Man, you're throwing me off here. There's so many sports and so many coaches. I always said I wanted to meet Jim Tressel.
Yep.
I still want to. Oh, Tom Izzo. What am I at 4?
Yeah, you're at 4. And now, if you're counting Tressel, it would be 4. If you're not, you're at 3.
I'm counting Jim Tressel. I still want to
Okay,
meet
so
Jim
you need
Tressel.
just one more then, because you got Izzo over there.
I do like Izzo, man.
Okay.
LeBron James.
There you go. And that's interesting because Izzo's Michigan State, Tressel's Ohio State. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
So
interesting.
I lived in Lansing for a short period.
Oh, well, I didn't know that
I
either.
sometimes cheer. I moved around a lot as a kid, but I really started cheering for Michigan State basketball. And Tom Izzo just always seemed cool, and I really liked him. And he's just been around for so long that I remember the 3 people, and I said this years ago, I wanted to meet was Frank Beamer, Jim Tressel, and Tom Izzo. And met Frank Beamer, haven't met Tressel, and Tom Izzo was at the Sweet 16 when we were there covering Virginia Tech and Duke. And we were so busy trying to get ready for the Virginia Tech Duke game, never crossed paths with Izzo. The closest I got, he was in the press conference in the room next to us, and I could hear him. That was it.
That's good stuff.
I'm gonna think of so many better people like later tonight when I think about that.
Right.
But I'm okay with my 5 right now.
There you go. And we have a sister station in Lansing, Michigan, so I'm just throwing it out there if you get there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got all right, so question number 4. Virginia Tech or Ohio State?
Virginia Tech. I had to make this decision when they had a home and home series, and I was in West Virginia, so I had to beg my boss to let me cover the game because West Virginia doesn't really like Virginia Tech, but they were close enough. So they let me go to the game in Columbus in the shoe, which I grew up watching since I was a little kid. And everyone asked, who are you cheering for, Virginia Tech or Ohio State? I was like, listen, I was born a Buckeye. I love Ohio State. I'm going Hokies. And they won, and it was the best day ever. And then I remember the Buckeye fans were all bummed out, and they said, oh, we'll have Braxton Miller back next year, and they're carrying on. And they won the national championship that year. So they were fine, and I ended up getting to celebrate a national championship as a Buckeye fan. So.
Well, you know what's interesting about that year they won the national championship when Virginia Tech beat them? I got a chance, I think I've told you already, but I'll tell it again. I got a chance to cover that national championship game between Oregon and Ohio State for Nexstar. And at the time, Nexstar didn't have as many stations they do now. But what's neat about it is I said during my stand-up, because I shot a stand-up, which the irony is I sent them this look live, which got me the opportunity of the job here because the news director saw it. But I shot a said, hey, folks, in Southwest Virginia, Virginia Tech, the only team that knocked off the national champs, Ohio State. So that was pretty.
What a great season, right? Ohio State wins the national championship. Their only loss was
to Virginia Tech.
To the Hokies.
And you were at that game, which is amazing.
I was on the field of the shoe. I mean, that was a great day. I remember I took a picture on the field, and I remember thinking, like, it was so surreal to me. And now I get to cover a bunch of games. I'm on a bunch of fields, but that was the first one. I'm standing inside the shoe, just in awe of the place. And then my 2 favorite teams, yeah, that's probably my favorite memory to date in this entire career.
And then the funny thing is the following year, they play on Labor Day, which was the first big event we got a chance to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling Kevin, hey, Enter Sandman, you don't know the experience. Oh, it's nothing. And then when she saw it, and her eyes got this big because Enter Sandman, in my opinion, the greatest college entrance in sports. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But that place was so loud. Tech was in it for a while. And then, of course, Ezekiel Elliott and the crew just went off. But there you go.
They
My final
did a
question.
spin move.
There you
Do
go.
you remember that?
What's that now?
You remember
yeah.
Zeke's spin move?
Yeah.
And in the press conference, and I had to tell you this story. I think you were in there with me.
Yeah.
They asked one of the Virginia Tech players, and I don't know who it was, and I wouldn't call them out anyways, but they asked him about the spin move. I'll never forget the Tech player goes, yo, did you see that? That was like a video game. Like, even he was impressed, and he got burned.
I think it was one of the Edmonds brothers.
I don't remember.
It might have been one of the Edmonds brothers when you asked that question, I think.
Yeah, I'll never forget. And they said it so funny, and I was like, even they were impressed with Zeke's move. I mean, you had to be.
He was something else. And then my final question, music you listen to, or is there a song you like to listen to while you're working out? Because I know you had an injury when you got hurt. I won't mention that, I just did. But when you were running or working out, is there a song or a genre of music you like listen to when you get your workout in, when you're running, doing all this?
Okay, so thank you for acknowledging when I fell on my run. I still have.
Well, it was all over social media. You put it all over social media, so
hey,
everybody
cheap likes. You know, I'll post a story, no one cares. I post my bloody knees, and all of a sudden, I'm the most popular person on Facebook. You know, I guess it's selling out for likes here, but yeah. So my favorite, I would say, like my favorite music, not working out, is Luke Combs. Love him. I do not listen to country when I work out. I normally put on today's like hip hop and R&B or something, and sometimes I'll go 90s rap and R&B. I mean, I think I have, what is it? I think I have 90s workout or something. I don't know. But
that's good
it's
stuff.
Pretty standard. But lately I've been actually listening to the Canes cast.
Oh.
So one of the broadcasters and one of their other guys with the team, they do a podcast, and I have been listening to that. And actually it makes the run go by really fast because you're like really into it, you know, you're like listening, and then next thing you know, you're done with your run. But they don't have that many, so I got to mix it up every once in a while.
That's good stuff. Okay, bonus question. Your favorite moment hanging around me. Your favorite Jermaine Farrell moment hanging around me. Do you have one?
I'm trying to think of one specifically. We have so many because we crossed paths so many times that I feel like whenever we're around each other, we have a good time, and we're always cutting up. But I don't know. Do you have one?
There's too many.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I will say this. I think it's, you know what? This is funny. This is so silly in a way. It's funny. So it's like when they have the media food. And this was at the ACC tournament.
I knew somehow you were going to bring up media food.
And what's so funny, you were saying, I missed the media food. But what's funny, you said, I don't want to be the first one in there. Like, go on up in there. She all right. So we went up there and got media food first because it was at the tournament because you didn't want to be. I said, look, I'm hungry. I'm eating. I don't care. It's there for us. That's why we got to do it.
Okay, so we left out a couple of people. We were giving out shout outs, but Dennis Carter and Dave Walls.
Yeah.
Dave is my go-to person to go get food because he knows that I don't like to go to the buffet by myself. I don't like to go to the media food. So now Dave will be like, you need someone? I'm like, yeah. It's like, if you could just walk with me to the media table. But those two, and Eric and Brooke over at SLS, they do it too. Like if I see them, I'm like, are you guys hungry? We're gonna go get some food. You know, like they know I don't like going to the table by myself. And that's what was fun with being in that market is, you're friends with everybody. So anywhere you go, you always have someone to hang out with or someone to go get a media meal with. So I missed that part of it. But people down here, it's similar too. You know, we got some good people in the Triangle.
And it's probably gonna be a little different now with COVID, which, we were talking about that at the ACC tournament, how you're handling it. And I think overall, a lot of the sports departments have just, I feel like I have a PhD in Zoom for all the Zoom interviews I've done. But I tell you what, it kind of makes you appreciate the one-on-one interaction you have with people you interview. And I know that you have done a tremendous job. And I just want to tell you that I really appreciate you giving me time. I went a little longer than I was supposed to because you got the girl on the Canes. But I'm so proud of you. And I appreciate you being on the WFXR Sports Sit-Down on WFXRTV.com, which is Miss Alyssa Rae. Rae.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me. And, knowing me and you, we could chat all night. And,
We could.
normally our conversations go much longer than this, but I always enjoy catching up with you and hearing about everything going on. And, of course, you've been such an ally since you were always my ally. But now, legally, in TV legally, you can be my ally. And I appreciate everything that you guys do for us. You're always on top of your stuff and hooking us up. And you've always been an inspiration and really a mentor and a shoulder and an ear to kind of bounce ideas off of and let me vent too when it's that time. But I appreciate everything you've been doing too. So I really am glad you had me on.
I appreciate you, and good luck the rest of the way. What should I say? Go Canes? Well, actually, let's see, Canes, Lightning, or Golden Knights. One of those three, right? Capitals.
No.
There's so many.
No, they're not here. We say go Canes here.
Go
Yeah.
Canes. Okay.
Hey, we got one pro team in town. We got one. I shouldn't say that. We have our pro women's soccer. But
There you go.
I haven't forgotten about the Courage. We have more than one pro team in town. But here in Raleigh, we got the Canes. So I think I'm okay to be a little biased. I haven't gotten in trouble yet for being a little Canes homerish. Well, it's early though. We'll see. There'll be a complaint somewhere.
Somebody will. Hey,
Alyssa, come on.
There's an old saying: Baskin Robbins got 31 flavors. Everybody's got an opportunity. I appreciate you. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, Jermaine. Talk soon.
And thank you so much for checking out this edition of the WFXR Sports Sit-Down on WFXRTV.com. For all the latest news, weather, and sports, there's only one place to go. That's WFXRTV.com. Also, download the WFXR News app. More good stuff. We are here to hook you up with the good stuff on WFXR. Again, thank you so much for watching the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit-Down on WFXRTV.com. I'm Jermaine Farrell. Hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everybody.